Today on Saving Lives School Summit on Suicide, we will learn about new research on programs and best practices that educators can take back to their schools and put to use in their classrooms. Hear from educational leaders on the front line of suicide prevention and so much more, so stay tuned.
Larry Burns, President and CEO of the Children's Foundation.
I'm pleased to partner with Detroit Public TV, Kevin Song, and other key organizations in this series of conversations on suicide awareness and prevention. At the Children's Foundation, our goal is to make a positive, lasting impact on the health and wellness of families in Southeast Michigan and beyond. Today's program is an important step in creating a dialogue on the issue of suicide in our communities. Please join us in this effort to address this urgent problem and share solutions for families and their loved ones at risk. Thank you.
I'm Cynthia Canty for Detroit Public Television, and I'm speaking to you from a conference bringing people together from across the state and region to address an urgent crisis in our community and in our schools, the soaring rate of suicide in Michigan. I'm here at the Inn at St. John's in Plymouth, Michigan, where the 4th Annual Conference on Suicide is taking place. It's hosted by Kevin's Song. That's an organization committed to generating public awareness about the causes of suicide and then creating measures to prevent it. The numbers are alarming across all age groups, including students. The suicide rate for teens in Michigan has doubled over the past decade. It is now the second leading cause of death among our youth. Schools obviously play a major role in the lives of our youth, having almost daily contact with them. Yet Michigan lags behind many other states in providing educators with the training and the resources that they need to help students at risk. This conference features a full-day school summit inviting educators, mental health professionals, policymakers, and other concerned people to learn about new research on programs and best practices that educators can then take back to their schools and put to use in their classrooms. Today, we're going to talk to and hear from educational leaders on the front line of suicide prevention. This presentation is part of a year-long campaign by Detroit Public Television, Kevin Song, and the Children's Foundation, a campaign to shine a light of compassion and understanding on an issue that has way too long remained in the shadows. Kicking off today's conference is John Della Volpe, Director of Polling for the Harvard Kennedy School Institute of Politics. He talks about the United States of anxiety. Let's listen.
What do you think unites young people today? Say it. What? Anxiety, yeah, fear, okay? And again, I said fear, and I go around the room, okay? And literally, this is the order of what young people were telling me, the order, okay? Fear unites us. Fear, and I said fear of what? Fear of death, people raising their hands. Fear of our rights being infringed upon, fear of the future for our kids, fear of for our family, fear for our health. I could continue. And then next I would ask, what don't we understand? And this is probably the quote that I refer to most often when I give a talk like this. And people ask me, like, what do we need to know about young people in America today? And whether those people, as Larry said, whether they're in the media or folks who are interested in serving in politics, I said you need to understand that the way, and I kind of rephrase this, the way in which we, as older Americans, think, in the words of this young woman, about finances or taxes, whatever our day-to-day struggles are, okay? The weight that we carry on those things, that's the way they feel about living and dying every single day, right? This was a young woman who was a student at Ohio State University, talking about walking into those classrooms, thinking about, you know, where the exits are and how to deal with that on a day-to-day basis. So the same daily weight, in her words, on an adult's shoulders over bills and taxes is what children feel about living or dying.
John, we want to welcome you to Detroit Public Television. It is so good to have you here. You know, you are an expert on political polling. So what's in people's minds, what's in their hearts? So why is this the United States of anxiety, especially for young people, for teens?
Yes, thanks for having me. For 20 years, I've essentially been doing the same job, which is I spend a lot of the summer and a good part of the school year, because I'm associated, I'm the polling director at the Institute of Politics at Harvard. We focus on young Americans. And what I've noticed the last 2 or 3, 4 years is before I can have a conversation about politics, I say, what's it like to be a young person today? What are the biggest challenges in your community? And over the last year, 2 years, 3 years, the mood has been dark and sad and urgent, which is concerned about school shootings. I'm concerned about opioids. I'm concerned about my best friend taking their life. I'm concerned about my best friend who's in a coma because of opioids. In trying to make sense of those very real, very personal problems in an already kind of fraught environment, dealing with all the other challenges that teenagers and 20-something-year-olds already have to deal with. So what I found was, before I could have a conversation about the economy, healthcare, education, we needed to give voice to the very real fears that are essentially uniting, I think, a generation of Americans.
And you touched on this, you think about the times we live in. They're fraught times. We are in such a highly polarized nation, highly polarized world. There's technology that has invaded every corner of the lives of these young people. How does that impact mental wellness and also thoughts of suicide?
Well, technology certainly is not helpful. It can be helpful in some ways, but in the ways that in which it's not helpful is, according to one of our recent surveys at the Institute of Politics at Harvard, the average young person gets 8, I think maybe up to 12 different incoming alerts or messages just on their phone about the state of the world. And again, without, in many cases, a proper kind of civics grounding and education, it's difficult to make sense of everything. And when we have, without being partisan, but we have concerns about the climate, concerns about do we continue or not continue with ACA and what that means for mental health, you know, when people are becoming fired and impeachment and corruption, these are concerns from any side of the aisle that young people have a hard time kind of dealing with. And when I asked a young person, what don't we understand as kind of older Americans, what she said to me, she was a college student, she said, the way in which you think about taxes and your finances, that's the way we think about living and dying every single day.
So bottom line in our last minute, what's the to-do for schools and for parents?
I think to give voice to young people, to understand that they grew up in many cases, the first political memory was argument over Obama or McCain or Obama versus Romney and those sorts of tensions. So give voice and let them know it's okay to have a different set of values, a different opinion than you might have one, and continue to have that sort of conversation about the stresses that they see every day. And what young people tell us that they want is they want a social worker or a psychologist in every single school in America. They're raising their hands and they want to have these kinds of conversations. Get it off their chest and know that they're not alone, concerned about not just bullies on social media and body image, but also the state of our politics today.
Good stuff. John, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Now we will turn to a panel of experts who discuss innovative programs that schools and communities are using to enhance mental health and prevent youth suicide.
Okay, so I basically say to them, ever since kindergarten, you've been running outside, 3 times a year in case the building is on fire. However, I hate to break it to you, your building is probably never going to be on fire, but it's great that you know to go outside and what to do. And we talk about, why do we have you actually get up and physically go outside? Why don't you just sit in your chair, I'll show you a floor plan, we'll make an arrow, and the kids go, oh, well, we wouldn't know what to do. Everybody would freak out. So once I kind of get them on board with the whole concept of a fire drill, I say, remember how I told you 1 in 6 students is going to think about suicide? But we've never told you what to do. We've never practiced what to do. So these little bookmarks are available out in the resource room at the No Resolve table, and also I put a stack of them in here. Everybody gets a bookmark. And basically they flip it over and it says, 3 people who care about me, and I have them write down the name of at least 3 adults. They're not allowed to pick another student. It's got to be 3 adults that they feel they could go to if they were ever thinking about suicide or they were concerned that maybe one of their friends were. They write them down, and then I have them put a little star or circle the person that they're going to do the fire drill with. So I tell them, this is the homework part, that what I want you to do is I want you to now go home in the next 24 hours, and you have to actually speak to this human. I have to be very clear. You can't text it. You can't take a picture and send it. You have to actually look in their face and have a conversation, which for some of them is a little terrifying. I tell them it's 30 seconds of your life that could make a really big difference. So I have to kind of, talk it up a little bit.
So with me now are Stephanie Lang, Student Assistant Specialist at Dakota High School, who has developed a successful program for suicide prevention, and also Barb Smith, Executive Director of the Barb Smith Suicide Resource and Response Network, which provides evidence-based training on suicide prevention. Stephanie, I want to start with you. Tell us about the work you're doing at Dakota. What's this program about?
So our program really just consists of a combination of classroom lesson plans. So we're trying to deliver a lesson about suicide prevention or mental health awareness to every student every year, along with assemblies for students and also training teachers and staff to be aware of mental health concerns that students might be facing.
What makes it effective?
Well, I feel that what makes it effective, the most effective, is that we're training students to be like the front line, to be able to identify when something's going on with a friend instead of 100% relying on adults being able to identify it, because we feel like they're going to notice something in a friend probably much sooner than an adult would notice it in a student.
What about the work you do?
Well, we do and offer prevention and aftercare specialties. So what we do is we offer the evidence-based as well as awareness trainings to go out into the public, and we say where people live, work, learn, and play. So we deliver trainings that help teach you the tools, just like you would for if you're on fire, stop, drop, and roll. We want simple yet effective tools of how to recognize someone with thoughts of suicide and how to respond in a life-saving way. And then we also offer aftercare trainings as well as services for those who have lost someone to suicide.
What does that mean when you say evidence-based?
That means that it's been highly evaluated to show a behavior change over years, over a series of times with multiple people at multiple levels. So meaning that it's been recognized and that it's proven to work.
Yeah, what do you think makes some approaches work and some not?
Well, I think it's what people are ready and willing to do, and what they, we say one size doesn't fit all, number one. And I feel like when people are ready and willing and able, but if they're taught a tool that's very simple, they're more likely to use it.
When you see these kids that you work with at Dakota, and you've seen them through the years, what do you think is going on that makes them more vulnerable to anxiety and to depression?
My opinion is that students have always experienced a certain degree of anxiety and depression, and it's just in the last maybe 5 to 10 years where adults have given them permission to talk openly about this. So I don't necessarily feel like it's a higher level. I feel like it's a heightened awareness and a comfort level. We're telling students to speak up, so they are. And so I feel like that's something that I feel in my population, in my building. That's my opinion.
Do you think we, in our generations, as we were growing up, it was happening around us, but we just didn't know, or if we felt it, we didn't know what to call it?
I think it's the pressures people have now, more so.
More so.
You know, we didn't have the pressures of being the number one in the class and the strongest athlete. And I heard a speaker say recently, we're so busy doing that we're not just being. So there's no relaxed time. There's always some type of adrenaline going, or
there's an
anxious.
expectation to be busy. There's an expectation to be producing something. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. So there's never, your body and your mind's never calming. And I feel like we need to kind of go back to let's just be.
So there is so much work to be done.
Yeah.
It's really complicated. The issue is really complicated, and I know that my population in my building is a unique population. It's different than maybe other schools across the state. That's why I don't want to say to like
Sure.
extrapolate that to all of Michigan. So it's just a complicated issue, and I think the more people working together with resources is how we're going to make the biggest impact.
And talking about it,
Yes.
just like we're doing. Thanks to both of you for being with us. Let's listen to more of the conversation and hear what schools are doing to enhance the safety of their students.
So what we've done is we've created a system for kids to be able to call, text, email, go online, and download a mobile app. Well, most kids are talking with their thumbs, so texting is really how we get most of our tips, followed by our mobile app. The program is available 24/7. As I mentioned, it's with the Michigan State Police. All of the tips go to our MIOC, our Michigan Information Operations Center. It's operational, as I mentioned, 24/7. So, because students live online, if somebody sees, somebody posting something, something that's troubling, a bystander can take a snapshot and actually include that as an attachment. So one thing we try to stress is we need to try to get as much information, the who, the what, the where, the when, so that we can pass on that information. We're going to pass everything on to school or to local law enforcement, because you never know if maybe that little piece of information that we have helps kind of put together something at the local level. So we do make sure to pass everything on. But if we get a tip that says, my friend is going to kill himself, well, we know we need more information. If we get a tip, my friend John Doe from Northwest School in Lansing is going to talk about killing himself, well, now we have enough information to pass that information on. So we are really, really good about trying to develop relationships with kids and getting them to open up. So one thing I want to stress is that okay to say is confidential. And what I mean by that is we can pass on all of the tip information, but we cannot, under the law, release the name of the tipster.
I'm here speaking with Mary Gager Drew. She's Consumer Programs Administrator for the Michigan Attorney General's Office. She manages OK to Say. It's a nationally recognized program that enables students to confidentially report harmful behavior that could threaten their safety or the safety of others. Mary, this is such an important tool and so needed in our classroom. So I guess how does this program ensure the safety of students?
Well, what we do is we have a Michigan Student Safety Act that allows students to confidentially be able to report anything that threatens their safety or the safety of others. They can call, text, email, go online, or download the mobile app. And their identity is protected under the law, so we cannot release the information to a school, to local law enforcement. We can let the school know exactly what's going on, but we cannot release the name of the tipster. So for that, that's really important for kids to know that if they have the courage to come forward, that they're not going to get in trouble, that they're going to have somebody that will listen to them and try to get them the help they need.
And the worry about peer pressure, you squealed,
Absolutely.
is crushing
Correct.
for teens.
Right, it is.
Yeah.
The idea of, the snitch, the narc, or the fear that if they do something, there could be retaliation. So really, really trying to break that and give kids an opportunity to safely go and tell a trusted adult, and so we can get help to kids who need it.
Have you got an example or two of how the program has worked in Michigan?
Absolutely. We've had so many successes, and the program is really working really well because kids are doing the right thing. So we call them the heroes in the hall, where they're stepping up, they're speaking out. One tip that came into mind was a young girl who had moved to a school district. She was very pretty. For some reason, this did not necessarily settle well. There were some girls that decided to make fun of her. They created a web page directly towards making her feel pretty awful about herself, and they would take images and distort it, and then they would get others to rate her. It was pretty terrifying for this young girl. Somebody knew about it, they reported it, we were able to get the girl the help that she needed. We could pull the web offline, and we were able to get, there were some consequences for those girls who intentionally misused the system to hurt this young girl.
And I know just from experiences in our circle of friends, it didn't used to be that way. It didn't, but when you've got the power of the Michigan Attorney General's office
Right.
involved with this,
Right.
and then schools backing that up and
Right.
taking action.
Right, and we've got the local law enforcement who's doing their job. We've got Michigan State Police who are doing awesome work. So everybody is working together, and I think that's what's so great about the program is everyone is working to do the right thing.
Are you seeing children, kids, teens becoming less reluctant to say something?
I do, because I think that they're seeing that the system works. If they have the courage to come forward, that something is happening. One of the other things is that we have outcome reports, so we know that once schools are made aware of a situation, they're taking action and they're responding appropriately and helping kids in trouble. So I think that's one of the blessings of this program.
This program is being done elsewhere, but you're saying Michigan is kind of a leader in how
Yes.
it's being implemented and put into schools.
Absolutely. We're getting calls all over from different parts of the nation, people who want to model our program, and it's something that we can all take a lot of pride in.
Okay to say it is a good news story.
It is.
Mary.
It's a great story.
Thanks
so
for sharing it with
Thank you.
us.
Really appreciate it.
Let's get back to the panel and learn more about novel approaches that schools are adopting in their classrooms.
I am the founder of Be Nice, which was actually created in 2011 following the death by suicide of a young man who brought national attention to cyberbullying. His name was Tyler Clemente. And the foundation had been doing a lot of education in the community prior to that. And so what we did was we needed to create something to keep the conversation going. So anyway, so we created Be Nice, and with that, we got called in to do assemblies to talk about being nice, but we were very, very intent about the fact that this is a mental health education, suicide prevention conversation that we're talking about. People need to have a greater understanding why you should treat people with respect, with civility, why you should connect with people. So Be Nice turned into an action plan.
And with me now is Christy Buck, is Executive Director of the Mental Health Foundation of West Michigan. Christy, so good to have you here. And I know you've been part of creating 2 new programs for the classroom, Live, Laugh, Love, and, as we see on your shirt, Be Nice.
You got it.
Be Nice is something that might be tough for kids to do. Tell us about this program.
It is. And so what Be Nice is the mental health education suicide prevention program that comes with an action plan. So it's more than just to be nice and to treat everybody with respect and civility like we want everybody to, but it's having a greater understanding that there's a plan. Notice, invite, challenge, and empower.
It's a roadmap.
Yeah, you got it. It's a roadmap
Yes.
to why I should be nice. So the end is to notice what is good, what is right, and that's every day. I do need to look at people in a positive light. What's good, what's right. So then, with that tool, I can notice what is different. So if I notice what is different, I need to invite myself to reach out. I need to challenge that because it's a risk. It could be a risk. I might be getting myself in trouble. It could be that I'm going to lose my friend because I'm telling someone that I'm concerned about my friend. And then ultimately, that E is huge because it's empowering myself. And I'm empowering myself to give that person resources and assistance.
You have over 3 decades of working as a mental health professional. Thinking of our kids, what do you see as the drivers behind what seems to be an increase in depression, anxiety, teen suicide? What's going on?
So even today, our presenters that were at the conference really talked about it exactly, and that is what is bringing about a change in so many people's behaviors is what's going on around them. And so when you get up in the morning and you happen to have the TV on for the national news and my son, daughter is in the room with me, they're hearing that negativity, that thing that could place fear in their own lives. Fear breeds anxiety, and so we know that anxiety is the most common mental health disorder, but anxiety left untreated, somebody could actually develop depression. With depression comes people that may have thoughts of taking their life.
It's like a spiral.
It is.
What can schools do to adapt to and deal with these changes that you've seen over the decades?
Okay, another great presenter was here today, and that was from University of Michigan, Dr. King, and she mentioned connectivity, connectedness. And I really, truly believe, and I know it, and that's why I'm so passionate about Be Nice, that we need more programs that are connecting kids. And what's better than connecting kids with respect, dignity, and treating people in a civil manner? So I love it. I love what we're doing. I love our program and that it can build resiliency in other students and help people to connect to each other by a simple hi, a hello, a compliment, getting them involved in a club or organization, creating more clubs and organizations within my school to allow for that connectiveness to happen.
You're giving kids sitting in the classrooms the power to really affect in a good way the person sitting next to them.
That's what it is.
Are schools doing enough, broadly speaking?
I'm hearing a lot, and I'm
Yeah.
seeing a lot. I'm at this conference, and it was, holy cow, walking down the resource lane, right? But we've got to be able to get to the masses also. So we have created With Be Nice as an action plan, and it can transcend to adults and to companies, to faith organizations. We were at a school, and there happened to be a Be Nice tennis match. Imagine that, between two rival teams. And about 2 weeks later, I received a note from a grandmother who happened to be sitting at the tennis match. And she said, what you did for our boys that day actually saved lives. A grandma. And I'm going, that's what you want to get to. So if we can't get into every school, which there should be a program surrounding mental health education, which can lead to suicide prevention, we've got to have that expectation.
Christy, thank you so very much. Great advice.
Thank you,
Great
Cindy.
work. Thank you so very
Great
much.
to be here.
Now, let's listen in on another important panel discussion on innovative programs to educate middle and high school students on suicide awareness and prevention.
The evidence that we found in the Prepare You program from day one, as well as moving forward and continuously throughout the country, is there's an increase in meaning and purpose, there's increase in emotional support, there's decrease in trauma symptoms, anxiety symptoms, as well as the reporting on pain symptoms. And if you look at the bottom, the measures that we use and that the schools are utilizing today are national measures. Currently, Prepare You is being used in 9 states. We've had the #1 state, academic school in the state, as well as alternative school districts, religious school districts, private day schools. We even have juvenile delinquent facilities using the program. And we've also had schools that have had multiple suicides as well as shootings.
I've got Ryan Beal here with me now. Ryan is the CEO and founder of the Live Network. He has studied and written about the effect of social media on mental health. Ryan, what led you into that area of interest?
That's a great question. One is I've always been a advocate of understanding how people interact with one another and relationship health, because really that is the core of all good relationships. I mean, you see even when people retire and they kind of start disassociating, their will to live actually starts diminishing. So I was in 2006, started the first private family social network. It was called Chattertree at the time, and I've just always been looking at how do we get the heart of relationships, family, and wellness and connect that. So it's evolved over the years to some of the work we do now within the schools with the Prepare You curriculum.
And social media, I know you wrote a book, it's called 40 Days Off Facebook.
That's correct.
A pivotal journey. And I gotta say, it sounds like I ought to do it. It sounds like a great idea. Can students survive being off social media for any period of time?
That's a great question. So one is, for me, I was doing it as a cathartic experiment because I was dealing with a lot of trauma in my life. Loss of my brother to suicide, just many traumatic events.
Yeah.
To answer your question, we do know that there is a direct correlation. So they used to say correlation does not mean causation between social media use and depression, anxiety, as well as suicidal ideation. But they do see that now with smartphones and because of cohort effects, that we see that there is a direct causation of these issues. So can students do it? In the beginning, and part of the things in the curriculum, they're removed from their devices and they will be more anxious. They're having withdrawal symptoms.
Cold turkey.
Exactly. So, however, but as you get the withdrawal, just like anything else, if you were detached from a substance that you're abusing, you start to really connect with your core and build a healthy relationship with yourself and others.
And people start to feel the benefits.
Absolutely.
How can parents best help their kids handle social media?
I think as parents that we are at a point that we need to create a culture of understanding that we don't really have a set value of norms. So it's important for parents to start leading by example. I'm a parent. I know I'm guilty at times that when my kids want to engage with me, I'm checked into my phone, and technology is drawn to us to get us to become addicted to it. That's how revenue increases. So it's important that we realize that technology needs to be a tool for us to connect with each other, not to disattach when we're with each other. Somebody told me recently that their family member has a rule that at dinner, whoever pulls out their phone first pays for the dinner for themselves. So it was a very reasonable way to motivate people. So when they're about to check their phone, they say, are you going to pay for your dinner for yourself when they're out? So it's just a reminder that we need to encourage one another just to be present, to not have to dance somewhere else when we are building relationship with ourselves, with each other, our family especially.
And your point is so well taken that mom and dad may think, well, they're watching the kids, but you have to pay attention to your own phone use and your own technology use and your own social media habits as parents.
Yeah, we model. I mean, that's how they learn.
That's great advice. Now let's return to that panel discussion.
Music was my way through, or at least the first step in the process. I started writing songs, and the first one was called No Resolve, and that's what led me to starting this organization eventually, and changed the spelling from N-O to K-N-O-W to hopefully inspire hope. And what I do is I go to middle schools and high schools, and I share my story in an assembly-style presentation. I talk about the loss. I talk about what I felt going through it. After the fact, I perform the song along with several other songs, and I talk about the stories behind them and where I was, what stage I was at in my journey through the grief and my own depression and mental health issues. And along the way, we talk about coping skills.
With me now is Dennis Ligio. He's the founder of No Resolve. Dennis, I know that there's a real personal story that led you to the work you do. Tell us about that.
I lost my dad to suicide when I was 14, and our last words were in anger, so I struggled for many years with that guilt and all the other stuff that comes along with a loss by suicide, the shame, the anger, the grief, complicated grief, and music ended up being my way through it. I started writing songs. The first song that I wrote was called No Resolve, and it was about the loss and everything I was keeping bottled up inside because of it. And eventually that led to starting this organization in 2007. Kept the name No Resolve, changed the spelling to K-N-O-W to try to raise awareness and make this something okay to talk about.
So how does No Resolve work? What's the mission?
The main program for the first 10 years was the presentation that I had developed for middle schools and high schools, where I go and I talk about my experience and my dad's loss by suicide, everything that I struggled with because of it. And I bring my guitar and I play some songs and I talk about my journey through the grief and my own depression and suicidal thoughts and everything that helped me along the way.
As you've done this work and you talk to young people, you know, every time we bring this topic up, the word stigma rears its head. What do you see as the key to getting past the stigma that keeps someone who needs help from asking for it?
Talking to each other. And for me, one of the big turning points in getting the help that I needed for my own depression and post-traumatic stress disorder, frankly, I needed medication along with therapy and the creative outlet. And I had that internal stigma that I couldn't get past. I was afraid of side effects. I didn't want to take a pill. I was worried about what other people would think. And it was a conversation with a friend that changed my mind about that, along with the news that my wife and I were pregnant and my desire to do better, to be better, to feel better for her.
Like you wanted to say, it's going to end with me.
Yes.
Do you feel in these years that you've been doing this work, do you see attitudes changing? Are we evolving in the way we think about mental health issues and suicide?
I think so. I think we're making a lot of progress with reducing stigma surrounding mental health issues and getting to a place of greater understanding that it is a brain illness. The brain is an organ. It's part of the body, and there's no line. There's no shame. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
What's at stake here?
Lives. Lives are at stake. Happiness is at stake. The ability to just enjoy one's life on a daily basis, all of that is at stake.
Dennis, thank you so very much for spending time with us.
Thank you.
Sometimes it takes a little magic to help people suffering from mental health issues, as we hear next.
When I was in high school, I started to develop this program inside of my magic show and to develop this kind of talk for those who saw it. It's a suicide prevention and coping skills assembly, but I use magic instead of a PowerPoint. When I was getting out of high school, every organization, every school, and every single place that I went to went, ha, we don't need that here. What are you talking about? Because maybe I didn't have really a track record. So naturally, I got in a Ford Focus with my best friend, and I went to Las Vegas, and I started to street perform and do the exact same presentation that you saw, just on the side of the street, living out of a Ford Focus and collecting tips. And this went on for a very long time. I went from Denver, Colorado to Vegas. I got eaten alive on Venice Beach and ran into a street gang that kicked my butt. And then we had to go back to Vegas and eventually home because I went broke. When I got home, I had apparently caught the attention of a couple newspapers, and Common Ground saw that I was an inpatient there, and they reached out to me and they said, hey, we want you to start speaking for us to raise funds. And I said, okay, cool. That's where I met Tony Rothschild, who passed away about a year ago yesterday, and he really coached and mentored me. Originally, what I wanted to do was be a magician who had a giant platform, and then I would use that platform to talk to my audience about mental health, like I've seen other entertainers do. But he told me that I needed to mix messaging together, and that's what I need to do for the rest of my life, and it would reward me, and he could not have been more right.
Anthony, you take a very unusual approach to this work in preventing suicide, magic. What led you to this approach?
I've always loved magic, and after come to know it's one of the oldest art forms that we've been using, and to mix it with storytelling is just so powerful and much more interesting than a PowerPoint for high school and middle school students.
But what led you to also this interest in mental wellness, mental health issues?
I'm a 3-time suicide attempt survivor. I struggled a lot with self-harm in high school, middle school, and using negative coping tools to manage my stress, my depression, and my anxiety. I decided very early on that I always wanted to use magic, and originally it was to build a platform as an entertainer and then talk about mental health, like I've seen a lot of entertainers do, but then I decided to just mix them into each other and do school assemblies, and well, it didn't always start like that though.
No, but it grew into that, and it's called The Magic of Hope. Why do you call it that?
The Magic of Hope, because there is just so much potential in hope, and there's so much importance. When I was suicidal, I had zero hope for myself, for my future, for my environment, and it was truly that wow factor I think that a lot of people get when they experience a magic trick, where they just, wow, that's unexplainable. When I felt hope again, that's the closest I could explain of how it was. It was just this magical experience.
Did magic save your life?
I won't say that magic saved my life. I think that therapy, inpatient therapy, outpatient therapy, learning coping skills is what saved my life. Magic, a lot of people talk about art therapy. Magic was my art therapy and my way of kind of explaining things.
So you come into a classroom, you do a magic show, but you're presenting this very, very important life-saving message. What kind of reaction do you get from kids?
I've received well over 300 or 400 messages from students in the last couple of years. It's all positive. A lot of times I'll actually get everything from just, thanks for coming to our school, I really enjoyed the message. I'll get a lot of kids asking me further, how do I stop self-harming? How do I approach my parents or somebody about my addiction or me using drugs to cope with my stress? And then on the more extreme side of things, there has been times where I've given a presentation and I've received a message from a high school or middle school student saying, I'm suicidal, I need help. And that's when things get a lot more a lot more into, I have to contact the school counselor and go from there.
It gets very real very quickly.
It gets very real very quickly, and that's something that I take very seriously, but I go over this with the school before. I'm saying, hey, this will happen as long as the counselor is available for me to just screenshot and send it to them, because that way they can immediately get the student down there.
How much traveling do you do? All around?
I travel all around. A lot of my schools are in Michigan, but in the last couple years, I have done an entire county. For example, Clarion County, Pennsylvania, I've been to every school there. I've been to almost every county in Michigan, all the way to DC, Chicago. In a couple weeks, in the same week, in the middle of February, I'll go from Milwaukee to Sault Ste. Marie in Miami in a 7-day period, and I'll be home for maybe 4 or 5 hours in between there. So.
Certainly the need is there. Well, you're a man on a mission, Anthony. We want to thank you for sharing that with us today.
Thank you.
Kevin's Song, the wonderful organization that brought together all of these caring and committed people, has created a new documentary debuting at the conference. Let's take a look at a short segment of We Need to Talk.
Because of individuals talking within our group, the connections that got made are things that we will never be able to actually quantify. We know they're there. Kids would say, I learned something that I'm not alone.
The thing I liked about doing it with Mr. Garrison is that he made it known that he wanted to create a safe environment. Like every day in class, we'd have these circle talks and he'd give us a topic and we could discuss it as a class. That way you build a relationship with the teacher, a form of trust, and with the other classmates, because he told us nothing you say leaves this room.
We just went to another level of understanding each other, and it's not just the kind of friendship that lasts through high school, it's the kind of friendship that's gonna last a lifetime.
The kids are crying out to us that one, they want to talk about these things. They want a meaningful way to engage and understand their own mental health. To them, they are seeing this in the news, they are seeing it in conversations everywhere, and they are looking for the administrators to give them a meaningful experience that allows them to not only understand their own mental health, but to be able to normalize these conversations with each other and to give them tools that are gonna help them be more successful in the world in the future.
After just 5 years as principal, Pat Watson was promoted to superintendent of the West Bloomfield School District. He will tell you without apology that instituting this holistic approach to mental health in his school was the most important thing he's ever done in his 24 years as an educator.
Every single school in this country is dealing with these issues right now, and they're not going to go away. They're not going to lessen. So often in schools, we forget that the basic needs of our students need to be met. We'll provide free or reduced lunch. We'll make sure that they have a clothing drive, but we've done nothing to address mental health. That student can't move forward if those mental health basic needs aren't met. Mental health is going to impact every single student you have in your building. That student who doesn't do well in Spanish 1 still can be fine. The student who maybe struggles through Algebra 2 is still going to be fine. The student who doesn't know how to have self-care and doesn't have the mental health skills that they need, they're not going to be fine in school, they're not going to be fine later in life.
With me now is Leo Nuhan, who's a board member of Kevin's Song and the coordinator of today's conference. And congratulations, I see a smile on your face, Leo. Hundreds of people are here and soaking up these important messages. You have to feel proud.
Oh, I'm thrilled today. I think on behalf of the whole board at Kevin's Song and all our advisors and helpers, I mean, it really turned out to be way better than we ever anticipated. The numbers are great. The cross-section of people, the diversity, the fact that we have teachers and mental health professionals and some physicians and advocates for suicide prevention and mental health. It couldn't have been perfect. Couldn't have been better than today.
I can only imagine the amount of work it took to pull this all together.
It takes a long time to kind of pull it together. There are months when you think, gee, I don't really have a whole lot to do, and then in the last 90 days, it's a lot.
I have a lot to do.
I have a lot to do.
What do you hope, personally, in your heart, when you think of all the work that you've put into this? What do you hope will come out of today? What do you hope you accomplish?
I hope that we can move the needle throughout the state to make people more aware of the need for suicide prevention. And I hope that we can finally convince the business community and those who are in charge of our schools and those who run our health systems and those who pay our medical bills through insurance. I want those groups to understand the need for this and to join us in advocating for better risk assessment, better access, and better prevention.
In the years that you've been doing this work, Leo, are you seeing attitudes changing? Is there a shift?
Absolutely, there is.
How?
There's some momentum now in the state of Michigan, and I think it's in part thanks to the current leadership, the previous leadership. There was many efforts that were being made to change mental health, the delivery of mental health systems. Everybody is kind of working hard to find the right model to deliver it. But we're finally seeing some awareness of suicide and how serious of a problem it is at different levels for young people, for middle-aged men that are working, for seniors, for veterans. And we finally see some movement. The governor has asked for a statewide plan, and the legislature has just passed a law that will establish a suicide prevention commission. And so we're trying to form a coalition, a large statewide coalition of coalitions to help the state make those moves and to help the business community and the insurers and the healthcare. Everybody is interested, but nobody has ever stepped forward to bring them all together.
Unite.
And that's what we're doing with One Voice.
And briefly, there's the new film. How do you hope this film will kind of further this cause?
The whole point of the film was to show people what's out there, what resources are out there for schools, for people that work with youth, for for families, to give them the tools to address some of these issues.
Well, the work is never ending. You are tireless. Kevin Song is a wonderful resource. We're lucky to have you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Leo. Let's look now at some more of the documentary. Friendship Circle is a community organization providing friendship and inclusion to individuals of all ages with special needs. Teens from neighboring communities volunteer hundreds of hours a year at Friendship Circle under the mentorship of teen director Rabbi Yarden Blumstein, who noticed that his teens had some needs of their own.
A few years ago, as I was engaging these teens and networking with these teens to volunteer, we started picking up a lot of teen isolation and teen crisis. And that kind of stems from the idea that Friendship Circle initially started as a place that people who felt isolated and alone could find a home and find a community. So teens were reaching out and saying, could we get that same friendship? Could we get that same support? Could we get that same community? And therefore we created a program. It started with just a little bit of training and programming, but eventually turned into a full-flung program called You Matter, and that's what we're running today.
For quite a while now, I have struggled with anxiety. I was trapped with my anxiety until my sister came up to me one day when I was struggling and told me about this program called You Matter, and I immediately wanted to become involved. I felt like it was something I needed to be a part of because it stressed such an important message.
You Matter is first of all a message to teens that they matter unconditionally. It's not their scores, their grades, their achievements, their sport capabilities. They have value, inherent value, and it's not based on what they're doing. Teens are so much more in touch and in tune with information that adults find out so much later in the game, if we find out ever. And therefore, they matter to those around them. They could do something about it.
Now it is my great privilege to introduce you to two people who made all of this possible, Gail and John Urso, the founders of Kevin Song. What a wonderful, wonderful day. This must be such a source of satisfaction for you.
Oh, it is indeed. Yeah, it's amazing in terms of where we've come from. And our first conference was in April of 2016, and we may have had, maybe 170?
Something like that.
I'm not sure, but today this is the largest conference of over 420 people. It's just amazing.
And
we really feel
I know that if people don't know you, it should be very clear that you know what happens in families that are touched by suicide, because your son Kevin died by suicide in 2013. How did that lead you to form Kevin Song?
Well, after Kevin died, we began to understand what a huge problem and how prevalent in our society suicide is. We didn't know that. When we learned that Kevin had died, we were, of course, shocked, but we just didn't realize it was even a possibility. And the more we learned there were great resources and organizations and books, and we just thought if we didn't know, other people must know. So what can we do to help spread the word.
Taking action out of
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
something that was so terrible and painful for you, you've turned it into positive action. And John, when you think about everything that's going on here, what's at stake both in the short term and the long term?
Well, raising awareness I suppose both in the short and long term, raising awareness that we are in a crisis in terms of people ending their life by suicide, second leading cause of death among young people. Fact that our state of Michigan is lagging behind nationally with other states in terms of the numbers of suicide. We are at about 34%, while national records increase at 25%. So there are just so many things that need to be done, both long and short term. But I wanted to just share, I met a woman here from North Carolina who said that she had come because she wants to start a similar program in North Carolina.
So you're seeding this work around the country.
Yeah,
by
which
what
is
you're
so
doing.
exciting.
Well, we want to congratulate you on this tremendous day. So much more work to be done, and you'll be at the forefront from it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's watch another clip from the documentary. The University of Michigan Comprehensive Depression Center is the first of its kind and at the forefront of changing the paradigm of understanding and treating depression and bipolar illness. In 2007, a partnership was formed with the Ann Arbor Public Schools to train school personnel in depression awareness and suicide prevention. In 2009, a student component was added for middle schools and high schools called peer-to-peer.
One of the changes that I've seen really in my 11 years here at the Depression Center is we do a lot of trainings for school staff. And I think, 10, 11 years ago, we would go in and do some presentations on sort of suicide alertness and those types of things. And we had a fair number of teachers who would sort of sit there and say, this isn't really my job, I'm here to teach math, why are we even talking about this? And I've seen a huge shift in the last decade of school staff, no matter what their role is in the school, is saying, we need your help, come in, help us.
So the peer-to-peer program, essentially, it uses the idea that peers listen to their peers. It's utilizing that dynamic to put true, effective mental health information into schools and to sort of let it spread from a nucleus of committed students who are the peer-to-peer members at that school who we help to train and help to educate about mental health, and then help them create campaigns within their school the rest of the year. Sometimes that looks like an assembly, posters in the hallways and in the bathrooms, above drinking fountains, high visibility areas. If we can arm them with some good facts, a better understanding of warning signs, depression, anxiety, potential symptoms, things to look out for, how to approach a friend. We have fewer people who might slip through the cracks and more students who are more likely to be introduced to the kind of help that they may need.
I am here with Nancy Buell, School Safety and Student Assistance Consultant at the Macomb Intermediate School District, and with Polly Gibson, who is Clinical Associate Professor of Psychiatry at the University of Michigan. It has been a very, very long day here at the Inn at St. John's and a very, very productive day with so many wonderful experts talking and so many people who care. Polly, what do you think is the big takeaway from today?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and it's been a pleasure and honor to be here today and to be one of the featured speakers. I think the big takeaway from today is that there's hope, that there is a village, and there is a village of so many different stakeholders that are committed to preventing this tragedy of suicide in our communities.
And what did you take away today?
The theme that I'm hearing throughout is connection, and it's been very gratifying to see how many people, and particularly the educators who are coming and want to learn more to enhance what they're already doing in their schools. And so I think the hope is great, and connection, that it doesn't have to take a whole lot, just us being able to be in relationship with each other and with our youth to really make a difference.
There certainly seems to be such a growing awareness that you have to talk about it. That old feeling of, well, don't talk about them, don't give them ideas. you have to shed sunlight on it and talk about it. Have you seen that process happening today?
Oh, definitely. I used to get that question actually, and I didn't get that question today. This idea that if I talk about it, am I going to implant ideas, or am I going to make a kid become suicidal by asking? So I think, I hadn't thought about it till just now, but I usually do get that question, and I didn't get that question today.
Yeah.
What do you see as the best ways that we as a caring community, whether it is relatives, whether it is teachers, clerics, people who are in the lives, teachers, classmates, how do we best come together to solve this problem when you realize this alarming increase in young people dying by suicide?
So how do we best come together?
Yeah, how do we change this?
So I think offering Kevin's Song Conference, this idea and getting somebody who has the passion and the resource to make the ask, because you talk about the importance of asking the question regarding suicide. It's okay to ask the question. Well, really, the best way to do this is to ask, is to have somebody who can put this together and reach out to people and say, will you come? Because I think we'll all be surprised by how many people really do want to come. There's 400 people here. and
for people watching on television who couldn't be at the conference today but worry about this and wonder, what's the first step? They're worried about someone in their family. Polly, what's the first step they should take?
Well, I would say that if you're worried about someone in your family, then you need to talk to them about it, and you need to ask. And oftentimes it's important, though, to feel prepared before you talk to your loved one. And so I would say tap into your local resources. There are so many resources in your community that provide education around suicide prevention. It provides language of how to even talk about suicide. So I think it, kind of starts with yourself, but also making sure that, we kind of say when you see something, say something. It's kind of a play on that. If you're concerned about someone, speak up to them and say something.
Do you believe, Nancy, we'll see this statistic change? Can we reverse this statistic?
I am eternally hopeful. That is my passion. That is my drive. We will get to 0 suicides. and I do. I think we can. We've seen it happen in Macomb County. 0 youth suicides after we did a big launch of a suicide prevention program, and it's possible.
So the work is being done here. Polly, Nancy, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank the Urso family, Kevin's Song, the Children's Foundation, and all the people that we've met at the conference on suicide today for making this program possible. Suicide is a difficult issue. It spares no income, ethnic, or any other group in our community. But there is hope. There is continuing research leading to innovative approaches for educating the public and for reaching out to individuals who are at risk. Suicide is a frightening problem, but as the people here today proved, we need to talk about it. We need to work together as a community to find solutions. We need to reach out to people in need. No one should have to struggle with issues like depression alone. We can help them. We must help them. This is Cynthia Canty for Detroit Public TV. Thank you for joining us today.